Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, mindset elevation coach, intentional living guide, and storytelling guide for women on the path of self-discovery. I'm also the publisher of the beloved Aspire magazine. And I got to tell you, ladies, I am pinching myself. Today is actually the 17th anniversary of the day I gave birth to Aspire. And guess what? She is still free 17 years later, and you can grab your complimentary subscription at subscribetoaspire.com. Today, we are in for a yummy conversation. You're going to discover how the four-step process to transforming the tragic into magic can lead to healing. Award-winning dream expert Kelly Sullivan Walden, best-selling author of 10 books, including A Crisis is a Terrible Thing to Waste, shares why life's unexpected mishaps and misfortunes are actually an opportunity for self-exploration. And I have to tell you, the title of the book, the energy of the book speaks to my own life experiences, so I can't wait for this conversation. Kelly is an international best-selling author, as I shared, of 10 books, an award-winning dreams expert, an interfaith minister, a certified clinical hypnotherapist, a practitioner of religious science, inspirational speaker, and workshop facilitator. I love this Renaissance woman already. Also known as Dr. Dream, her unique approach to dream therapy led her to become a trusted advisor, coach, and consultant, enriching the lives of thousands of individuals across the globe, from Fortune 500 executives to celebrities to stay-at-home moms. I am so excited that you are here, my friend. Welcome.
Linda Joy. It's so great to be with you. I'm bursting at the seams, and happy 17th birthday, Aspire Magazine. It's so exciting to be with you on this day.
Well, I was so excited when we just connected, and I was telling Kelly about the anniversary, and I'm so blessed to have her on the show. I'm sharing her wisdom in the upcoming February-March issue of Aspire. I featured her book. When I find a woman with a message that is supporting and inspiring and empowering others, I got to shout it to the world. So thanks for joining me today.
Oh, I'm so honored. I literally feel like I'm dreaming with you. And I love that your book, your magazine came right out of a dream. And maybe your book will also come out of a dream.
Oh, you're giving me that nudge, aren't you, my friend?
I can't help it. I'm sorry. I try to not be too overbearing, like one of the stories in my book where I talk about that.
Well, let's dive into that, because it's the title of the book that really speaks to me as a woman, right? And it's A Crisis is a Terrible Thing to Waste. So let's talk about the title and what the book is about.
I believe this is where I remember hearing it the first time. I think I'm going to credit Marianne Williamson. I was interviewing her around when she was running for president, and something in the conversation was about a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. And it wasn't in a political stance. I know some people know that there's some people that talk about it politically, but it wasn't. And I just was struck by that notion. And it just felt like, in a few words, a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. It summed up everything that I am about. I don't think of myself necessarily as like a Pollyanna that just sees the bright side no matter what. I feel like I'm a very pragmatic Pollyanna, if I'm a Pollyanna at all, but I do look for the gold in the nitty-gritty things that happen. And by doing, most of the time, people come to me with their dreams because they're not necessarily the most pleasant dreams. Most people don't pay a therapist to talk about their flying, happy, winning the lottery dreams. So I've been privy to thousands of nightmares. And it's the way my mind is trained to say, okay, well, let's see what's good about this. How could this be a blessing? How is it trying to help you course correct? How is it helping you to vent out some baggage that you don't need to carry anymore? And at some point, I started to notice that same point of view about dreams started to translate into the waking dream, because we're always dreaming. And I started to notice that I really do this with clients, help them to see the positive in what seems like it's like the worst thing. And then it started to translate into my own life, where I started to look at the things that I've been most ashamed of and felt like my skeletons that were in the dumpster in my closet. I started to pull out each skeleton bone by bone and started to heal it and love it and look for what was beautiful about these horrible things that have happened to me in my life. And in the process of writing this book, it's been the most intense alchemy laboratory experiment of my life. And now putting it out in the world takes it to a whole other universe.
Well, you know what? I believe, Kelly, I think one, it takes courage, right, to share our truth, and
Mm-hmm.
especially about vulnerable circumstances in our life. But I also believe from personal experience that when we do, we, one word or one sentence or one paragraph of what we're sharing could reach a woman who in her moment at that moment is in a place of darkness that we once were. And
Mm-hmm.
I believe our stories can really help remind women of possibility and believe in hope during their dark times, because you and I have both lived through those difficult times. And I use a phrase similar to what you use. I have a hashtag actually called seeing the blessings instead
Mm-hmm.
of the bullshit, right? And so I tell my
Mm.
audience, like,
Thank
listen,
you.
life happens, but I can still choose in the midst of chaos, in the midst of uncertainty, in the midst of medical crises, to
Yeah.
focus on the blessings and not the story, not the script our ego fear-based mind is doing. So in the book, is it's stories that you share from your life in the wisdom you glean from each experience.
Yeah. Well, there was, one story that I didn't put in the book, but it's kind of it'll go in the next book. But it was basically me on a ride up to visit my sister and having a really difficult time with her. And I thought I need to organize every self-help tool I have. I need to put it into something that I can really use for this confrontation we're going to have. And I practiced it with her on that day and it worked really well. And then from there I began to practice it on myself and practice it with my clients. And I call it Ogle, OGLE. And literally it was like a drive up the mountain. And it was all like every tool. And I've got tools from Byron Katie to Don Miguel Ruiz to Marianne Williamson, all of the great ones that you know and your audience knows. And I just pulled it together and then I started teaching this to my clients and then started using this myself and this formula. So what I do in my book is I tell a story that is one of my like horror stories, or just a screw up of where something really bad happened to me, where it just seems like on the surface this is just horrible. And then I apply my Ogle method to it myself, and I show you how I was able to turn it around and then eventually glean the wisdom from it, ultimately so that I wouldn't feel like I wouldn't want to change anything. I mean, one of the, I don't know. I don't know if you want me to get into any of the particular stories, and I could give an example.
Of course, we
Um,
have a few minutes. Let's give an example, because I think it will really connect with women that we all have experiences that are challenging.
so the first story that I tell in the book, it's in the introduction, is actually where a reporter comes to my house to write a story on dreams. And it felt like I felt like I had arrived. I'm successful. A reporter's coming to my house. This is a big deal. And we're talking about dreams. And then she kind of halfway into the interview, she says, so do you apply these same principles to the principles for how to work with nightmares to waking nightmares? And I said, absolutely. Everything in our life is a blessing. It's all in how we frame it. And she said, so is that how you feel about the year that you were a stripper? And I almost like fell off my chair. I felt like the world was spinning. And I thought, how the hell does this person know about this big secret that I've only told a few people, that this horrible year of my life happened when I was 21. And she said, oh, I know about this because I was in a woman's 12-step program with you years before, and you mentioned it. And I thought, oh my God. So there was something about this moment that was so awful that I felt like I'm a hypocrite. I try to tell people that there's nothing wrong with any of the bad things in our lives, that every nightmare is a blessing in disguise, and yet I wasn't practicing what I preached. And how I ogled that situation. If we need to go to a break, I can ogle it on the other side, or I can do it quickly now.
You can do it. You have a few minutes, 2 minutes before.
So the O is for look at what's offensive and allow yourself to be offended. So I wrote in my journal, what was offensive is this woman did a gotcha on me. It felt like she was trying to undermine me and pull out of my, it was shameful, shaming, and really like nasty journalism. But then I went to the G. What's good about this offending thing? Well, what's good is that maybe she's in the pursuit of truth, and don't I claim to be as well? And maybe this upset, maybe she's going to teach me that if anybody's going to tell my story, maybe it should be me. Maybe I should write my own damn story. So there was some good in that. And maybe it's time for me to embrace this as not such a horrible secret. And then the L is for the looking glass. How do I do that very same thing that is so offensive? In the looking glass, I could see, well, I'm also in the pursuit of truth. And I also I'm not content with the kind of the BS, what's on the surface. And I prefer it when people tell me what's really going on rather than just kind of the platitudes on the surface. So I'm just like her in that. And then the E is for the elevated action. And that's when I decided I'm going to write my story. I'm going to write about all these stories that are so awful, so that if I'm ever exposed, it would be by my own hands and not by some sneaky reporter. And that has been the biggest gift. It's been so liberating, because it's like we look for the rest of the world to give us approval when really we're wanting it from ourselves. So I feel like this book, and then the book that I've written that hasn't come out yet, that's more detailed, a little bit nittier and grittier, that'll come later. But at least I've written it. I've told my story to the best of my ability. And now I feel like I'm excited about it. It's given me access to people like you, getting to talk on this show about some really real things, and instead of just spiritual platitudes, which I don't think we need anymore. I feel like we need the airy fairy, but we need the nitty gritty, and we need to combine them together and become like gritty fairies. So we're blended.
Oh, I love that. It's like a grunge fairy.
Exactly.
No, and I feel that too. And thank you for sharing that story in your OGO acronym, because it's so powerful. And I love how you walked us through how you shifted that experience. And Kelly, we're going to take a quick break. And then when we come back, I want to talk more about how any of us can transform the tragic experiences in our life into magic, right? Mm-hmm. So we'll be back in a moment, my friends. I'm with Kelly Sullivan Walden. I invite you to grab a copy of her book, A Crisis is a Terrible Thing to Waste, at kellysullivanwalden.com. We'll be right back, my friends.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Inspiration for a Woman's Soul. Aspire Magazine, inspiring and supporting women on the path of self-discovery. Claim your free digital subscription today, which includes access to thousands of dollars of personal development bonus gifts from Team Inspiration partners. Claim your Aspire Magazine subscription today at subscribetoaspire.com.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose: to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. ascendinghearts.com.
Consistently attract soulmate clients, begin showing up on brand, monetizing on your calling. Welcome all spiritual coaches, leaders, healers, light workers, and practitioners to a show that turns you on in your business and amplifies your magnetism. I'm host, catalyst, and spiritual business coach Rosalind Fung, and I'm here to journey with you into the juicy and help you discover where the real gaps are. Ignite your mindset and soul with strategies and systems as each episode takes you to the sweet spot that activates your soulgasmic business by tuning in on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Mountain. Join me for your light language activation and let's magnetize and monetize.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy. With me today is Kelly Sullivan Walden, author of A Crisis is a Terrible Thing to Waste. So you shared a powerful story of not only a personal experience, but how you were able to flip the script, right? And how in using your Ogle process. So I think all of us, and I'm raising my hand, and the listeners, we all can identify at least one, if not many, experiences that we've had that we either carry shame, regret, self-judgment, etc. And it is an energetic drain on who we are because we've never looked at it for the blessings, because we're not taught that, right? We're taught bury it, stuff it, don't deal with it.
Totally.
So for someone that your story in truth is resonating, how can they transform those experiences into magic?
Well, I think we can do it on our own, at least in the privacy of our own journal. And I think that's a good place to start. And I'll talk through the Ogle formula in a second. But I think there's a saying in 12-step programs that you're as sick as your secrets. And the idea in that is to tell at least one other trusted person your inventory, or it can be multiple people that hear one story each, but we have to be discerning with who we share our story. I love that Brene Brown says that people need to earn the right to hear our shame. And I think that's true. So I think starting internally, we at least become truthful to ourselves. And then we can take it to one other person and then maybe a couple other people. Eventually, I think in my ideal version of this world, everything would be worn on our sleeve. We'd be like, I think naked dreams, because I'm a dream expert. A lot of people, one of the most popular dream themes is nudity in dreams, and people wearing not enough clothes or not the right clothes or being naked. And my perspective on that is that it's a litmus test for how we're doing with regards to transparency. If we're naked and terrified or horrified, then it means that we've got some alchemizing, some integration work to do with our own shadow. Somebody just shared with me a dream the other day that she was walking around completely naked and she was fine with it. And I was like, oh my God, you're one of the only people that has ever shared that with me, that a dream where you're actually naked and you're fine. That's the goal, where there ain't no shame in our game, where we are proud of everything we went through because it taught us something that led to us surviving and thriving and becoming who we are today. And to the degree that we can do that is the degree that we then can give permission to other people. So, and I would say, because I know this is a very advanced audience that we're talking to right now, your audience, Linda Joy, is definitely, I would say, the 2.0, if not 5.0. My big goal, if I look at the big picture of the world, is that we would transform these difficult moments as they're happening in real time. Most of the time it takes us a while. In hindsight, we're able to flip it around. But I think with this Ogle formula, I've been practicing it when the bleep hits the fan practicing ogle in real time. So should I break it down again? And
Yes, please.
so first of all, the word ogle, people ask me, like, that's a really strange word. Why would you use that to be your acronym? And I think about how in dreams, often when we're scared of something and we feel disempowered, it's because somebody else is watching us or chasing us or trying to get us, or somebody else is in the power position. If we become the ogler, the one who really looks, then we flip the script, as you said earlier, Linda Joy. We turn the tables on the difficult thing. We say, hey, who are you that's trying to chase me? We say, come to mama. I want to really see you. It's kind of like Dorothy going behind the curtain to see that the Wizard of Oz is really just a little man with a bullhorn. So in order to ogle our circumstances, we transform it by really looking at what's the core, what's really going on. And so we break it down to ourselves. We give ourselves permission to be in the O, which sounds like, oh, but it's also what's offensive. So we give ourselves permission to whine, to moan, to groan, and be in victim mode about what has hurt our feelings or broken our hearts or ripped the rug out from underneath us. What's offensive? How does it feel in our body? What does it do to us? We can write as many pages as we want inside the offensive. What's offensive? And then the G, this is where we really have to put on our big girl panties, because the G takes something, because the first response to most people is there's nothing good about this. When I first was dealing with this reporter, I was like, I really thought this is just the worst thing that could happen. I felt so ashamed. Is she going to print this about me? Oh my God, I'm trying to establish this career as an upstanding citizen. And now this is going to ruin all that. It's going to be a black mark against me. But in looking for what's good about it, I started to find that it's like the alchemy starts to happen. The ability to transform the dross, the dirt, the nitty gritty into gold. And then the looking glass, how do I do that very same thing, even if it's just to a tiny degree? This turns the alchemy switch up to the next level. The moment we ask ourselves, have I ever done that same thing? Like, there's another story in my book where somebody stole my purse that had all my money, my passport. I was traveling in a foreign country. It had my laptop in it with not backed up stories, books that were partially written that were just gone. So how am I also the thief? Have I ever stolen anything? Yeah, when I was younger, I shoplifted and I didn't think anything of it. I've also been the thief that steals my time when I'm doing things that aren't productive or aren't supportive of me, or paying too much attention to social media instead of creating what's mine to create. So the L for the looking glass is really where the aha starts to happen. And it helps sometimes to have a dream perspective, where we notice that from Carl Jung's perspective, he said everyone and everything in the dream is an aspect of ourselves. So it helps if we look at it from a dreaming perspective. How could this be me? And then the E, how can I elevate my situation? How can I take one baby step in a positive direction based on my part to play? How can I do one thing, make one phone call, maybe meditate a little bit on this, maybe do some journaling, share the story with somebody else, whatever. There's always some little tiny thing we can do. It doesn't have to be monumental, but that can move us in an upward direction and an inspired direction. We notice that the situation changes. The nightmare stops being recurring. And because it's like we've gotten the message, so we can move on to something new.
I love this, because I'm a big believer, if we can have a process to follow, and Ogle does just that. You bring us into the story, right? Into the healing. Just having that resource gives us hope that, okay, we could shift our story. So for me too, there was something you said, it's about, I can remember a time where I had so much shame, like you did about the stripper story, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
About being a welfare mom, runaway. I was a financial misfit, queen of self-sabotage. And I can remember the moments where I began to write a new story, because I was able to embrace that those were experiences. They're not the truth of who I am. Like it's that moment of awareness, right? That we are not our experiences. We can carry the weight of them, but there are, like, as you say, gold, there is gold in those experiences, but we just have to do the work, the excavating. And I love that you
Yes.
said journaling, because my audience loves journaling and journaling prompts, and we love to deep dive. So everyone, just quickly give the acronym again, just the words so they can write it down for OGLE.
Yeah, OGLE. O, what's offensive about what happened? G, what's good about this offensive thing? L, looking glass. How am I a part of whatever just happened? And then the E is for elevate. What action step will I take to elevate my situation? What's offensive? What's good about it? The looking glass, and then elevate.
I love that. I want to invite everybody to go to kellysullivanwalden.com. There's a lot of content there. Of course, all of her books are there, and check out the resources that she has there, because you don't have to walk this journey alone. You have a woman like Kelly there to support you. We're going to take a quick break. In the meantime, kellysullivanwalden.com. We'll be back in a moment, my friends.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Your worth is not determined by the number on the scale. You are enough right now, exactly as you are. If you're like many midlife women, you've thought, if I could just reach my ideal weight, I'd be so much happier. What we're really craving is our own love and acceptance, and Sarah Haas is that guide for your journey. Sarah is a women's weight release expert and body love coach, and walks alongside midlife women ready to say yes to self-care, self-compassion, and body love so they can become the healthy, vibrant, and unapologetically confident women they're here to be. Her holistic approach integrates nutrition, body movement, and self-care to nurture body, mind, and spirit. Visit sarahhaaswellness.com for supportive resources, programs, and more for midlife women ready to reclaim their health.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
You're listening to Inspired Conversations. Thanks for joining me today. I'm excited to have Kelly Sullivan Walden here, the author of many books, including A Crisis is a Terrible Thing to Waste. So I want to go backwards a little, Kelly.
Yeah.
What led you to becoming an international best-selling author of 10 books in the work you're doing with dreams? Like, what was your personal journey of getting to there?
There's so many ways I could tell this story, but I think you'll appreciate the fact that none of it was planned. I had a very different agenda for how my life was going to go.
We usually do, don't we?
Yeah. And the last thing I ever would have thought of is that I would be known as Dr. Dream, an international dream expert. Like, what? It's like the fish in water saying, I'm not a great swimmer. I just swim. Doesn't everybody? It's just, this is what we do. But there was a moment where, I've been a big dreamer my whole life. It's been a really important part of my life. And so many times I'll literally be in a conversation and I'll tell myself, okay, we're not going to make it this about dreams. We've got to talk about other things, but inevitably the conversation always comes back to dreams. It's just, I'm dream centric. It's the lens that I see the world through. And I think it's a really empowering lens, because from a dream perspective, we know that everyone is a part of ourselves, and every dream is a good dream, even if it's a nightmare, because it's all helping us, moving us in the direction of trying to help us course correct or heal something or become a more whole, awake version of ourselves. But years ago, probably 20 years ago, I had written a very different book that I was trying to pitch. And I had an agent who was kind of a big time New York agent. And I was meeting with her in New York City, and I was like, yay, this is so great. And she basically said, honey, nobody's buying this book. This isn't happening. But you know what? Every time we talk, you always give me really interesting and great insight about my dreams. Have you thought about writing a book about dreams? And I just looked at her like she had 20 heads. Like, what are you talking about? Why would I write a book about dreams? That's so, like, isn't this just obvious? Doesn't everybody? She said, no, it's not. And she happened to be working with the publisher that had published Lady Stern Robinson's book about dreams from years, and Tom Corbett. They had written a very famous book about dreams. And she said, we're coming up on the 20th anniversary, and we're looking for a new author to write the 21st century version of this dream book, and the Dreamer's Dictionary. And I was like, oh man, lady, I think you got the wrong person. But I thought about it. I shared it with my husband. He said, of course, you always talk about dreams, and everybody's always inspired and empowered by your dream perspective. You need to do this. And I thought, are you kidding me? So everybody else could see it but me. So this is kind of a story in, like, we can't always see what we're best at. Sometimes what we think we want to be the queen of one day is something that we think we're supposed to be the queen of one day. We're something that we're striving for, but the thing that we're really talented in is often in our blind spot, because we can't necessarily see it. So we have to rely on trusted other people to, sometimes we can ask them, what am I good at? What do you think I should be doing? I mean, even though of course we want to follow our intuition, ultimately, of course, but in the matter of ourselves, sometimes we do have that unique myopia when it comes to our own path. But so I wrote the book proposal. I got the deal. The book became, I Had the Strangest Dream, the Dreamer's Dictionary for the 21st Century. Sold 20,000 copies right off the bat. It became really successful. People are still buying it. It's an app, and it's, anyway, it kind of started things, and I started to kind of own this path of dreams being something that became my thing to champion, because it was something that it's kind of like that. It's almost like the people that are the champions for the earth, and people are like, why would you champion the earth? It's only the thing that gives us food and air and oxygen. It's so important, like, but we could take it for granted. So to me, it falls into the category of earth and oxygen. We need it to be sane. We need it to thrive. Our dreams are so important. So that's why I'm an advocate.
I think it's so powerful. And I had shared before we went on the air that Aspire magazine.
Yes.
Yeah, back way before I was just stepping on the spiritual path, and had just come through a big healing window in my life. And I kept dreaming about the cover of Aspire. And like at the time, which didn't exist. And I kept going, why the heck? I was getting mad. It was nonstop for months. And I remember saying, what the hell am I dreaming about the stupid front of a magazine for? That's all I saw. I never saw inside. Always the cover, and it always looked the same. And the cover never changed. It was these 3 stacked stones, like you do on the beach, those beautiful stones. And I could see the logo. It was hand-drawn lotus of a woman coming out of the lotus. And I'm like, this is the stupidest thing that keeps waking me up. And as I shared with Kelly before we came on the air, way back, I used Microsoft Publisher because in my mind, in my intellectual mind, is like, I will get this stupid thing out of my energy field. And so I designed what I saw on Microsoft and hung it on a bulletin board. I remember looking up at the sky going, I have no idea what this is. If you want me to do something with it, you better let me know. I really believe to this day, Kelly, just saying that statement and letting it go and not trying to force it to life, because I really wouldn't have known what to do anyway. I didn't have a publishing or marketing background. All these divine synchronicities started, and I just kept taking the next step. So when I've been sharing that story for years, they're like, you mean you didn't have a business plan? You just started a magazine because your dream told you to? I go, yeah. And everything else I've created since then has come the same way. I've published 20 books, most of them anthologies, 260 women, most of them life coaches, they're heart-centered spiritual women entrepreneurs who publish in my anthologies for the visibility across all my media brands, and they learn our authentic storytelling model. Every single one of the anthologies, Kelly, the title was given to me, the colors of the book was given to me. So when people say, when's your next anthology? I'm on the list. And I'm like, I don't know, you gotta wait till I receive it. And so we just announced our 20th one. Now, that is following the dreams, right? That is building a relationship with the wisdom of your dreams and trusting them enough. Do people struggle to honor what the dreams are trying to lead them to?
Oh, yeah. Oh, just like, I mean, I think you're the poster child for that, because here your dream is trying to give you this life-changing, life-bettering, life-wondering, wonderful gift. And you're like, what the heck? And that, so I think it's typical because when I learned this fact, it really made sense of everything. According to the American Hypnosis Association, I'm a hypnotherapist, so I'm a part of this association. The conscious mind, our logic, our reasoning, our rational thought, basically our logical mind is only 12% at best of our mind's power, versus our subconscious dreaming mind, which is 88% of our mind's power. So from that perspective, our logical mind thinks about things in a very concrete way, and we think we're so smart, and our logic is smart. We need it. It can get us places. It can help us tell time. It can help us make a grocery list and do those basic things. But when it comes to the things that are superhuman and metaphysical and extraordinary, that's where our subconscious mind, our dreaming mind comes into play. And sometimes it comes in these little bullion cubes that are in a tight packed symbol. Like your magazine cover is this one tiny little symbol that contains volumes of wisdom and information, but it's elegant. And so our conscious mind looks at the dream and says, this doesn't make any sense. This is ridiculous. So we have to sort of basically, in order to be better dreamers and better stewards of our dreams and thus our dream life, and to not waste our crises, to live like a better life, we need to be a little bit humble and a little bit open to what might the wisdom, this higher wisdom, be telling me. So all you have to do, really, from my perspective, when you have a dream that you remember, is just simply be like a dutiful secretary that simply takes dictation. Just write it down, draw a picture of it, tell somebody about it, even if it seems completely insane, just like you did, Linda Joy. You are the poster child. Like, even if it seems crazy, just write it down, do something concrete with it. And then you will be shown the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And it's kind of like we just have to allow ourselves to become like that old cartoon, Mr. Magoo, where we're just sort of blind and we're just sort of led by something, that we're led by grace. And if we can do that, we'll find magic in the most, the places that we would never expect. I mean, I just had a dream myself a couple days ago where I was in this place where everybody's waiting. It's kind of like a DMV. And I'm like, oh my God, this place and all this waiting. I was so frustrated. And then some man comes by pouring tea for everyone in this beautiful, colorful teapot, and crystals are coming out of the teapot, like into my little teacup. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, in the most mundane, frustrating places, there are these miracles that I could have never conjured. And then I realized, oh, it's the teacup from the cover of my book. Oh my God, wait a minute. So I haven't even quite discovered, like, uncovered all the messages of this dream, but it's telling me there is magic in the mundane. If we let ourselves be a little humble, a little patient, and we simply look for those blessings, then we'll find them.
Everything that you just shared really speaks to me in my experience. That putting it on paper that day, even though I didn't do it for that reason, I didn't do it knowing that everything that would unfold. It was just, I needed to get it out of me. But you know, the funny thing too, Kelly, is probably about 8 months later, because remember I said it wasn't making sense. Like, what is this?
Yes.
Steps were starting to unfold. I think we filled it with subscribers by month 6, before this is the first issue. Yeah. And we had writers, and I'm like, I'll tell you how green I and the new graphic designer was. We designed it. It was beautiful. And we printed it out on paper, and we walked into the local printer, like, so proud. And we said, hi, we would like 10,000 copies of this, please. And he looked at it and he said, I gave him like a printout on a computer. And he says, oh, honey, he said, we can't create a magazine from this. And I was like, but it's so beautiful. And he says, well, we need blah, blah, blah files at these specs. And guess what, Kelly? Again, this was a family-owned printer. I didn't know them. They were local. And he said, we'll take you under our wings. We'll teach you everything you need to know. For 3 issues, him, the owner of the company, and his daughter, it was all family, but him and his daughter, they guided my graphic designer setting up a magazine template, like, so we would have the specs needed. Wow. He took me under the family took me under their wings and said, this is meant to be birthed. That happened all the time.
Isn't that amazing?
I stayed with him all those years that I was in print until we went to full color, and then he didn't offer full color. But again, I just kept taking steps without knowing the hows, and the divine met me halfway. And I tell my clients that all the time. So we're going to take our final break. We'll come back. We'll talk a little bit more about how the divine will rise up to support us. And I'll have you share some resources in our last 12-minute segment.
Great.
I will be back in a moment. Please visit KellySullivanWalden.com. Grab her new book, A Crisis is a Terrible Thing to Waste, as well as a variety of her other books, all on dreams. We'll be back in a moment for our last segment.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
We can all use a little more peace and joy in our lives. Don't you agree? Counselor, best-selling author, and self-nurturing expert Kelly Grimes of CultivatingPeaceandJoy.com is passionate about empowering overwhelmed and exhausted women to live with more peace, joy, and meaning through the practice of self-nurturing. Through her experience working with individuals, speaking, providing workshops, and teaching professional and leadership development to forward-thinking organizations, Kelly knows that nurturing peace in the world begins from the inside out. That's why she created the free Cultivating Peace and Joy mobile app that brings you beautiful self-nurturing reminders, guided meditations, empowering practice tools, and daily prompts with an inspiring question to guide your daily self-nurturing practice. Download your free Cultivating Peace and Joy mobile app today at cultivatingpeaceandjoy.com.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
This is Kathy Beal, host of Celestial Compass, featuring astrology you can use. Celestial Compass points you to what's going on in the sky and what you can do with it down here on Earth. We also explore fun, effective, and cosmic tools for navigating this adventure we call life. Join me the first and third Monday of the month at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for Celestial Compass. It's enlightening, entertaining, and empowering.
The United States has the highest rate of incarceration in the world. At the Equal Justice Initiative, we believe mass incarceration has to end. There is this presumption of dangerousness and guilt that gets assigned to Black and brown people. We have to confront our history of racial injustice and commit to a new era of truth. There's something better waiting for us, something that feels more like freedom. Truth can inspire change. Please learn more at eji.org.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
Welcome back, my friends. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I'm Linda Joy, and with me today is Kelly Sullivan Walden. So Kelly, right before I break, I was sharing that what I discovered is I don't need to know the hows. Like I'm at complete peace now.
Yeah.
I don't need to know how. I just need to listen and take the next step.
Yeah.
Being led to that printer, I know was no accident.
Right.
And what I tell my clients that hold on so tight to different visions and things, I say to them, I said, whatever name you have for your divine source, it doesn't matter to me, whatever that name is, I want you to picture that energy above you. I said, he or she has his hands behind his back, and you're down there taking a temper tantrum, but I want this, and I want it to unfold like this.
Oh my God. It's so true.
I said, and your divine source is up there with the biggest, best teddy bear, bigger than you've ever seen. And you're down there with your little teddy bear in your hands going, but I want this. And the divine is saying, darling, I have so much more for you.
Oh my God.
And when I say that, Kelly, to my clients, they're like, oh my God, that's what I'm doing, aren't I? I'm micromanaging the divine.
Oh.
I said, yes. I said, and take it from a recovering control freak.
Totally.
Healing to do. There is something so much better on the back end of every experience, but you have to let go and trust. But having that visual for them, they just threw up their hands like, oh yes, that's what I'm doing.
I love that so much. This is making me think of one of the stories in my book, A Christ, This is the Terrible Thing to Waste. It's so some of the stories are really heart-wrenching and some of the stories are pretty funny. One of the stories is on my first book deal I had the Strangest Dream book. I was working at a coffee shop near my house, a name brand coffee shop, which I won't name. And because I couldn't work at home because I would get too sleepy or too distracted. So I had to be in the stimulation of a coffee house. And I was determined to meet my deadline, which was ridiculous. It was like Herculean. So I was pounding out the pages, working writing 8 to 10 hours a day, which no writer should ever do. But anyway, here I was doing this. And one day the barista or whatever comes up to me and says, honey, you can't plug in here. Like you can't plug your laptop in here. And I had an old laptop that had to be plugged in. It didn't have any battery life. And I thought he was joking with me. I'm like, you're funny. Okay, see ya. He's like, no, seriously, you can't plug in here. And I thought, okay, first of all, you're distracting me from my flow and I'm under deadline. I'm drinking coffee. I'm eating coffee and drinking my scone. Like I'm a patron here. Why would you? And I looked around at all the other people with their laptops plugged in, like whatever. And I'm like, this is so rude. This is really rude. I said, can I speak to your manager? He said, I am the manager. Ma'am, you can't plug in here. And so I'm like, so I just got so in a minute, like just became the Tasmanian devil inside. I was so mad. So in a huff, I pack up my stuff and I'm grateful that I didn't like drop a bunch of F-bombs, but I wanted to slam the door as I left in a huff. Like, what the heck was that all about? This is so rude. And I was so mad. I got in my car and it's in the middle of the day. I still had hours left to drive, but I'm like, I'm too upset. I can't even write. And all of a sudden this little thought bubble comes into my head and it's Carolyn Mace saying, when it's bizarre, it's the hand of God. And so I thought, okay, Carolyn, whatever. What am I supposed to do? I still have a book. I'm under deadline. I get home. And before I go into my house, like a dog with the tail between its legs, so pissed off and so upset that I've been kicked out of a coffee shop for no good reason. And I tell the guy, I'm the kind of person that people want to have around. No one kicks me out of anything. Like, don't you know who I am? My ego was just so wounded. So before I walk into the house, I open up the mailbox to get the mail, and there are not just one, not just two, not three, there's 5 multicolored postcards inviting me to the new coffee shop that had just opened up around the corner from where I lived. And it was beautiful. And it said, present this postcard and get your first coffee and pastry on us. And I think, wow, that is interesting. So instead of going into my house, I just get back in my car and I find this other place that's not a name brand coffee house. I would have never gone there in a million years. But I park my car and I walk in, and the 2 owners were standing out in front, Randy and Gary. And basically they hugged me as I walked in, like, there you are. We've been expecting. I'm like, what? I walk in and there's hardly anybody in this place, but it's like New Orleans, beautiful. And they're like, here's the best coffee. They make a special one for me. Here's the best pastry. They make it for me. And since you're writing a book, here's the best feng shui place. Our feng shui lady said, this is the vortex to sit in. And so basically I'm like, what? They're like my fairy godmother fathers. And that ends up becoming my new writing spot. That is 1,000 times better. I'm much more productive. I'm much more happy. They said, oh, you can plug in right here. I'm like, I can actually plug in. I'm in tears. They end up saying, I get back to work, and I work for the remainder of my deadline for months in this place. They end up hosting my book launch event. I get to do dream circles in this place. It became like this haven that I never would have discovered had I made myself stick to the place that I thought I was supposed to be at. It's like the universe had so much more in store for me, like that big, beautiful teddy bear you just talked about, Linda Joy. And it came, and I have to think about that every time I get some kind of a rejection or some kind of a thing's not going my way. I think about those 5 postcards and this beautiful coffee shop that ended up being this haven that I never would have found had I been operating by the little measly 12% logical mind that thought it knew better.
Oh my God, I love that story. And one of the phrases I use for myself as part of my healing journey, and now I share with clients for the last decade, is it is not rejection, it's redirection.
Oh.
And it's the same energy, though, of what you said. In other words, your ego is telling you it's rejection because that's the little toddler in you taking a temper tantrum.
Totally.
But the divine is redirecting you because it has something so the highest and best for you. Like
always.
Yeah, I work with a lot of women entrepreneurs, and sometimes, especially the new ones, they get on what they call a discovery call, and they're like, "Oh, it didn't work out." I said, "You know what? You got practice. You met someone new, and it creates space for the divinely aligned client to come to you."
Exactly.
Right? So they're like, "So okay, that's a great way of looking at it," because if not, they go into the story. And
right.
So this is such a powerful conversation. Kelly, I'm so excited that you were able to join me today. I think we could do a 5-hour radio show.
At least I think we could do a 5-year radio show. We'll never get to the bottom of it. Yeah.
Yes. And I want to invite everyone to please visit Kelly at kellysullivanwalden.com. Plenty of resources there. Check out all of her international best-selling books, as well as her newest book, A Crisis is a Terrible Thing to Waste. Spend some time there, get to know all the magic she's putting out into the world. And Kelly, I want to say thank you for joining me, my friend.
Thank you, Linda Joy, so much for having me. This has been so amazing. And I just want to let people know that I have a Costa Rica trip that I gave away during my book launch, but I'm offering a very special offer for anybody who does want to join me in Costa Rica for A Crisis is a Terrible Thing to Waste journey and with Dreamwork, and that comes up in June. So people can send me an email and inquire about the special offer that I'll give them just if they mention your name. So they can just email me at kelly@kellysullivanwalden.com and mention Linda Joy and Inspired Conversations, and I'll give them the special offer.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. I just spent 3 weeks. We've been going to Costa Rica for 30 years. So Yeah, I spent 3 weeks there traveling down
Oh
the
my
East
God.
Coast for 3 weeks of heaven, and we just rented a house for November for a month.
Oh
for
my
the
God.
study. Oh yeah, it's my soul spot. So there's no way,
Oh,
my friend.
oh. We're just getting warmed up, Linda Joy. This has been this is an inspired conversation, and I'm so grateful that you featured me in your beautiful Aspire magazine. I'm so honored to have my book there. Thank you. I'm so grateful to have made this connection with you.
I am too, my friend. And until next time, my friends, choose love, choose joy, choose happiness. Blessings.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living.